the movie is about a girl who's turning 29 and what that is. And I started it when I was turning 29. So, and when you talk to women about that age, it is sort of, and for men too, you know, it's sort of a, who am I, where am I going, where have I been kind of a thing, as you sort of do at each decade, right? So, and then I put it in a drawer. I wrote many drafts of it. It was about 3 estranged sisters, and I just put it in a drawer. And I took it out periodically in my 30s, and, you know, but I never really had a third act. It was just sort of 3 sisters that didn't get along. And then when my father got very ill, I sort of had a third act. And my husband said to me, there's your third act. So I pulled it out, and I finished it, and I had a complete movie. And I gave it to a dear friend who's a casting director, and she said she wanted to cast it. And it went from there. And we got a great cast immediately. And, but it was, you know, many years of effort in terms of sort of the writing, the rewriting, so many drafts, and many, many years, obviously. And then a frantic shoot, and a very long period of editing, very long period of getting music rights, a long time. So it's been a huge process. In some ways, the first draft was actually the execution. In my mind, it was much more something that someone in her 20s would do and write, and it had a different sort of spirit to it. By the time I finished this, and by the time I certainly shot it, my father had just died. You know, it's a different feeling. It's a different. I hate to use the word vibe, but it is a different vibe. It's an entirely different. You know, the movie I wrote in my head is very different than the movie that's on the screen, but then it becomes, what happens is you see it so many times, and you edit it so carefully, that becomes the movie you wrote. Well, first of all, it was a huge learning process because, and I would almost say to people, start with getting the music. We had a great music supervisor, and that was a huge part of it. She had all the contacts, she made all the phone calls, there were a lot of follow-up phone calls. There's festival rights, which are usually free, but then, you know, past festival rights, the costs can be enormous and can completely stall you. And we didn't get into that because we didn't go after any huge songs, but the music that we were going for, you know, there were some favors. People did do stuff for free or said that they would, and then later on said that they wouldn't. You know, there was a lot. But I think it was also a process of understanding that there's so much great music out there. So to not be freaked out if you want a certain song so badly you can't get it because there's another great song around the corner. We worked hard to, you know, we wanted the city to be a character in the piece. And if I read that sentence, I would probably roll my eyes. But we really did.
Oh, no, I get it.
We really wanted it to be. And just sort of a where you live in LA based on where you're at in terms of where these sisters were at. You know, one was a struggling actress, and so she shared an apartment in Venice, which again is sort of a unbelievable thing because Venice is so expensive. But sort of we did a stereotypical one's in Venice. One's house could have been Bel Air. We never said where it was, the older sister, but that was the look of it. And that was actually a very good friend's backyard. You know, we had to scramble for our locations because we were very careful with our location manager to not steal a shot, to not do anything illegal. We were all, you know, worried about that. And the people that were the production manager on it and the UPM and all of that, they were just, I mean, sticklers for safety. As much as the music, I would say we learned that too. When I tell you that, I mean, obviously we couldn't use this picture, but it would be like, our legal was like 500 pages of that picture that you got from a flea market. Do you think you can track down the artist? Well, no, because I don't even know the flea market, but I mean, it was pages and pages. So to anyone who's running out and doing this, just sort of know what your artwork is on your walls because you think you can use it and you can't. I think that it was the more experienced people around me that said, well, you have to get this checked off. You have to get that checked off. And I would say, well, what are you talking about? It's nothing. It's a poster from, you know, whatever, a garage sale. Oh, no. So there were people doing that. There were people that knew that I had to do that.
Wow. Yeah.
So, because the risk of someone sort of showing up and saying, hey, that's my thing and you have to stop your movie. So, you know, my style, my husband was on the set with me. He's directed a couple of movies. And we have very different styles. And his style is to talk to an actor after every single take, you know. And I'm a very, if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of person, you know,
Sure.
Where I say, great job, let's move on, or, you know, because how many times and how many different ways can you say, that was great, And so I sort of felt like, and I hopefully they didn't feel that I wasn't giving them that sort of feedback. Once I was happy with what I got, which was often the first take, if not the second, I was sort of ready to move on. The people who were there had done it so many times before, and they were the ones sometimes saying, you know, I think I was turned this way in the last shot. You know, they had much more experience than I did. This was my first feature. We had a script supervisor that honestly drove people crazy. She would say, oh, her hair was, you know, on this side. She was over the top. It became a running joke, although no one was laughing. I mean, it was a horrifying, which, yeah, you know. But again, she was doing her job. You know, continuity is her job, and you know, one of the elbow was on the table, it was not off the table. But the truth is, one of the actresses was like, if people are caught up, they are not going to notice that. I mean, if people are funny, they're funny, you know, and the people that are funny in my movie are just funny, and they were great. And I sort of went with my instinct in that if people are funny, they can do drama. And that proved to be true. I feel that Wendi and Joe, who are primarily comedic actors, are very strong in this movie, and that's them. You know, they brought that talent. And I'm trying to think of the first time I saw Natasha. I don't remember the first time I saw her because I've seen her many times. But what I told Natasha in person is that she has an Elaine May quality. And she's not someone who's like work I've seen on stage. She's very famous. She's before my time. But I've known enough about her to know she sort of has a very definitive look, and she's such a respected Elaine May. She's a genius. And I think Natasha is actually quite a genius. I love, you know, everyone was very, very talented. There was not one person who was in the movie who wasn't talented. Any idea that they had, I was completely happy to try. Anything. And I often found that many of them were, you know, what do you want me to do, and I'll do it. You want to do that? Okay. And most of them were like that, I have to say, all of the time. And what I would like to do next time is I sort of like to, from the get-go, say, I don't care which order we do it in. Let's do it your way and let's do it my way. I'll do what's best in the editing room, but let's try it both ways. I'll never steer you wrong. I would say, and I think Jackie would echo this, there were a lot of things I was sending her. I'm sort of, you know, I would see a clip of something and I would send it to her and I would say, what about this for that? What about that for that? You know, yeah, she's very tough. She's, I lovingly call her snobby. She's an extremely snobby casting director. But it's kind of who you want. There was just a lot of stress. We lost, you know, because of the location issues. I think the biggest fee, if memory serves, was going to be the parking. How are we going to park all of these cars all day long? And so it ended up being that we used my house for about 5 locations. And the stress of doing it in your own home, thinking that you're upsetting a neighbor, you know, because I was, you know, a very hands-on mother, so I was wondering where my children were. I was wondering who was watching my children. Even though they were already watched, it was in the back of my mind. Where I think if I was on a location, I think it would have been a little less, but it was something about being here. And hearing like the gate open at 5 in the morning so catering could come in, thinking, oh my God, I'm looking at the neighbors. There was that. It was, you know, and filming at a friend's house where she lived under the flight path under Burbank Airport, and it was just, every second was the airplane. And looking back, I think I would have just said, let's find a way to make the locations work. But what happens with your first feature is you sort of, you're just in a frenzy, as I'm sure you are no matter what. But you're in a frenzy and you go, oh, okay, that's fine. Okay, you know what, yeah, that's fine. Okay, I saw it shooting at night, but if we can't do night, all right, we'll just do day. And you sort of make these compromises as you go because you have to. But then, I don't think I would do that. I feel they all, they were very prepared when they came. Mary Kay and I, she wanted to go over the script, you know, very carefully. And it's almost part of her process. It's almost what she does. Nobody really had many questions. And the people that have seen this movie thus far will say to me, that's my father, that's my sister, that's my, so I think, and I'm thankful that there's a relatability.
Yeah.
So I think that's what happened. We had a big table read, but it wasn't, you know, it's really hard to get everyone in town at the same time. It was a huge cast. So we did have a big table read.
And did the writing change after that?
A little bit, not much. I was looking to change it. I mean, I sort of, I think I probably made a couple of cuts here and there, but it was pretty close. We lost our financing 2 weeks before the movie started.
Okay, well, we should talk about that.
We lost our it was an unbelievable thing. And it was just sort of this frenzied, hell-bent determination to go, well, I'm not going to let that stop us, which, I can't even talk about it. It's a very creative, spirited approach to making our movie. I can't even talk about the details of it. But what I will tell you is that, because it's a credit to them, everyone on the crew had worked a lot. Their credits far surpassed mine. Nobody left.
Yeah.
Everyone took a giant cut. Not that they were going to make a tremendous amount to begin with, but it was going to be very long days. And it was 18-hour days. And no one left. I fed them very well.
Yeah.